Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're going to be talking about The Wolf of Snow Hollow, which is a horror film that was released last year, and for some reason my brain wanted to jumble that sentence around in a weird way. But The Wolf of Snow Hollow, which is a werewolf / murder mystery horror film about this cop who is having a nervous breakdown to end all nervous breakdowns while trying to solve a series of murders that appear to be done by a werewolf.
Yeah. Yeah. This movie's by written, directed, and stars Jim Cummings.
Yes, who was apparently well known for having directed a movie called, was it like Thunder something?
Thunder Road. Yeah.
Thunder Road, which I have not seen, but I heard is very similar thematically.
Yeah, it's another story about a cop, like a cop with a daughter who's having a nervous breakdown on the job.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like this isn't a sequel to that, but it feels like a spiritual sequel to it, but going in a completely different fucking direction.
I was reading that was more of an indie film, and this was like his first studio film, so it might be one of those transferring the ideas to like a more polished project, which would make sense.
Yeah, that would.
All right, so I'm gonna cut clean right here. I've had an interesting journey with this film over the last 24 hours. So when I first saw this movie, I didn't like it very much. I liked half of it. The half I liked about the movie is the half of the movie that's about this dude having a complete nervous breakdown while trying to solve a murder case.
Yeah.
I like that because of the way this movie portrays a guy who is A, an alcoholic, B, has anxiety issues, which kind of leads to the alcoholism.
Yeah, leads to the alcoholism, yeah.
And C, has way too many responsibilities for him to reasonably handle while having those two conditions. I thought the movie portrayed that amazingly. These scenes of the guy breaking down are great. And watching him slowly devolve as the movie goes down until he reaches like his breaking point.
Yeah.
Is just really well done and is pretty entertaining. But I wasn't the greatest fan of the actual murder mystery plot of the movie, mainly because I felt like the ending came out of nowhere. Now, it turns out it doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
After doing some research and like watching some people explain the movie to me, which it's a rare case where I had to watch someone else explain a movie to me.
Yeah. That's not normally how that works.
It turns out there's a lot of details that happen early on in the movie that actually do explain the ending, and it's actually pretty well thought out. However, when we get to the ending, I'll talk about it more directly, because I don't want to spoil anything for you here. Because I do think there are things the movie could have done that would have made those elements come across better than they do in the final movie.
Yeah, I would say the biggest warning going into this movie, knowing that it has this murder mystery edge to it, do not see it as a murder mystery.
Yeah. See, okay, this movie is primarily about the guy having the breakdown.
Yeah.
The murder mystery is just kind of the catalyst. If you actually sit there and try to solve the murder mystery like you're watching Murder, She Wrote or something, you're going to be a little frustrated. Like, that was the difference between our two approaches watching the movie, because he had a much more positive experience with the movie.
I loved it. Yeah.
Like, when I first watched the movie, I watched it as a murder mystery, because I was reading the thing, and it was like, it's a murder mystery, and I'm like, okay. So I watched the movie, like, trying to solve who the werewolf is, right?
Yeah.
And when it got to the end, and I was like, who?
Yeah.
Who?
The movie does do that. Yeah.
And I was a little annoyed. And then when the movie like doesn't actually go out of its way to explain how, I got extra annoyed.
Yeah.
But if you just watch the movie, now, okay, first off, the who and the how actually is explained in the movie, but just indirectly. Well, I'll get to that when we get to the spoiler section. So if you watch this movie and had the same reaction I do, wait till we get to the spoiler section, because I'll go over how the ending actually does make sense. It's just, it doesn't come, it's not like handheld to you. It's not made extremely clear, because it doesn't do the whodunit thing.
All right, we're gonna find some excuse to pause, and we're going to show you how everything fits together.
Exactly. There's no moment like that, and there's no moment of like when a character pieces a thing together of like flashing back to the thing. They don't do anything like that, so you kind of have to put it together yourself. I'll go over that when we get to the spoiler section, because I have watched many videos on explaining the ending of this, so now I've become somewhat of an expert on how this movie is put together. But if you just watch it as a movie about a guy having a mental breakdown, and the fact that the elements are there but not being like directly pointed towards you, they're kind of background elements, actually kind of works in a weird way, because he is so engulfed in his anxiety and having such a breakdown that he's not listening and not being observant to the things around him.
Yeah, he's missing a lot of shit. Yeah.
So it actually makes sense that that while the details are there, he's not recognizing them. Therefore, the camera isn't recognizing them. Therefore, the movie isn't drawing attention to them. So it's actually kind of built that way. It's kind of by design. Now, whether or not you find that super satisfying is going to be up to you personally.
Yeah, your mileage may vary.
But it's kind of by design. But like the actual journey of him having this breakdown, coming to his personal realizations, and dealing with the problems within his family dynamic, and that stuff, that's the core of the movie. That's what you should watch as the movie about. Like,
yeah, I would agree.
More so than the murder mystery. Also, if you want like amazing werewolf attack sequences, like the actual werewolf attacks, the murders.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They're really good.
There's one in particular that happens in this parking lot that's amazing.
Yeah.
That was one of the best werewolf attack sequences I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's fantastic. I also really like the way the layers of meaning in the movie.
Yeah.
Right? So you have the main character who is going through the fact that he is an alcoholic. He has way too much pressure on him right now because his dad is the sheriff. He's right below the sheriff.
Yeah.
But his dad is the sheriff. But his dad is growing old, senile, and has heart problems.
Yeah.
So he can't take the lead in the case and manage one of the first big serial murdering cases in their town the way he probably should as the sheriff. So the main character kind of takes all that upon himself. But what I love about that is he's in just as much denial about his alcoholism and his anxiety as his dad is about his heart and his head.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's in just as much denial about it. So you have like this layer of thing. And you also see shades of that same kind of denial happening with the daughter a little bit, who has some anger issues.
Yeah. She has some anger issues. Probably also an alcohol problem.
So you have this really cool generational trauma thing happening here.
Yeah.
Generational trauma is not the right word.
No,
but
that seems right. Yeah.
Well, it's hard because generational trauma is like the trauma of your ancestors, right? Whereas I'm like
well, yeah, it's just a little closer.
Hopefully you get what I'm saying. You have this great the flaws of the dad is the same flaws with the son, and it's transferring into the daughter.
Yeah, you can see how one affects the other.
It's the flaws that it's causing all the problems in the movie outside of the outright murders. Because like this inability to recognize the problem you have, to recognize that you're having a meltdown because of the problem, and to listen to the people around you that are trying to help.
Yeah.
Even if the people don't necessarily always have the greatest advice, his reactions are really disproportionate.
Oh, yeah. He's just like, because he starts out like at the end of a rope.
And that actually leads to the other thing that I didn't really get the first time I watched the movie is, if you read all the descriptions of this movie everywhere online, it is a horror comedy. I did not know that going into the movie. So when I first watched the movie, like the first 20 minutes of the movie are like pretty serious.
Yeah.
I won't say
dead straight.
I won't say like deadly serious, like 7 or something.
Yeah. But it's it's very sober, very matter of fact.
But the movie starts. But two things I started noticing happen around like the 20-minute mark is first that's when you first start getting the main character having his meltdowns. But on top of that, the way the main character is delivering his lines and presenting the meltdowns felt like they were supposed to be for comedic effect, but I wasn't sure. I found myself sitting there going okay, he said that that was supposed to be funny, but do we have a tone shift? Are we going in the horror comedy section now? I wasn't sure, and that confusion kind of tainted a huge chunk of the later half of the movie because I wasn't sure if the movie was supposed to have me laughing or not. I've rewatched the movie twice since that first time. The second time was a bust because I watched the second movie when I was way too wired on caffeine and was like in a weird state. So I was not giving the movie the credit it did. The third time I watched the movie a couple hours ago, I actually started to understand the tone a little bit. Like it's going for like way more of a Coen Brothers style tone. And it wasn't apparent to me the first time around.
Yeah, because the Coen Brothers make that shit very obvious.
Now, I would say that, like, compared to a Coen Brothers movie, I feel like the Coens are much clearer at telegraphing, this is funny.
Yes.
This is serious. And this is funny serious.
Yeah.
This movie...
Yeah, they somehow mastered that.
This movie, even now that I know that it's a horror comedy and I watch the scenes that are supposed to be funny, like, there's some scenes that are legit funny. Like, the whole, like, that expired license plate scene.
Oh, yeah.
That scene was pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
Like, but the scenes of him melting down, I was never sure.
Yeah, because it is done, it is really raw.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, like, my warning to all of you is, first, know going in that it's supposed to be a horror comedy. So, like, if you do laugh, there's nothing wrong with that. Also know going in that the tone is weird. Coen Brothers is the closest, like, comparison I can make to the tone of the movie, but I don't know if I can think of another movie that has this exact tone.
No, but it's way closer to like a Barton Fink.
Yeah,
than even a lot of people describe this as a Fargo with a werewolf, which I see why they did that.
Because you know, you have like this murders happening and you have like the snow and stuff, so like I can see why someone atmospherically would compare it to that.
Yeah, but the overall tone of the movie reminded me a bit more of Barton Fink.
Yeah. So, those are just the kind of warnings I want to give up front, and also to explain my weird journey with the movie. Now where I sit with the movie is I actually like the movie. I do like the movie, especially if I watch it through the light of the guy having the breakdown and thinking of all that, because all of that stuff is so well done. Like, especially watching it a second time, I pick up a little more parallels between him and his dad. And also, the whole metaphor of, like, the werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
And how that ties into this, because he has the alcoholic problem, which is causing him to have meltdowns and, like, attack his coworkers and shit.
Yeah.
And, like the parallel is very clear there. You know?
Yeah.
The wolf-in man.
And there's also, and that metaphor actually extends outward. Mm-hmm. You know, that metaphor has a lot of layers to it, because one of the other things that it's talking about is twofold. One, that the werewolf legend in and of itself is about murdering young girls. Mm-hmm. And how, wait, if there's someone out there murdering young girls, how do you stop that? Because usually a crime, you know, a vicious crime is usually a means to an end.
Yeah.
You know, you shoot a bank teller to get the money.
Yeah.
You know, or you kill someone because you're in a fight. Mm. You know, this is the type of crime where it's, no, this person just wants to murder a girl.
Yeah, it's like a serial killer.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, it's a werewolf that's just eating young women and only young women.
Yeah.
And also, a nice little detail actually in the movie, watching it 3 times, you'll catch some certain details. Like, for example, how all the girls have something very vibrantly red on them.
Yeah.
When they're attacked. Which I'm like, oh, I see what you did
there.
Yeah,
exactly.
I see what you did there. So, I've talked it up a storm. Do you, without getting the spoilers yet, is there anything you really love that you want to talk about?
I actually really love the reveal, not necessarily who the werewolf was, but what the werewolf was.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in the spoiler section.
That reveal was amazing.
Yeah, there's some great twists and turns. I'll also explain how it makes sense too, because if you were like me and were like, what? Like,
yeah.
I'll explain it. All right.
Yeah, let's just go on to the next section.
Sure. All right. So this movie's currently available on various streaming platforms, mainly to rent. I don't think any of them have it, like, just to stream for free right now. So pick your poison and enjoy. And with that said, we're going to move on to the spoiler section. So if you were confused at what happened at the end of this movie, allow me to explain in a minute.
This is not just going to be a spoiler section. This is going to be a complete explanation, deconstruction of what happened.
Yeah.
Woo!
Thanks, Gomez.
Thanks, Kat.
We're about to go to the spoiler section. Are you gonna?
You wanna? Okay.
All right. Spoiler time. Okay. All right. So, if you watch this movie and you get to the end of this movie and you get to the point where it's just like, okay, so the killer, the werewolf, is this guy Paul, who's a taxidermist, right?
Yeah.
All right, so at the end of this movie, you have this scene in which the cop goes to interrogate, or not to interrogate, but to deliver some items in evidence to this guy named Paul. The movie doesn't really tell you who this guy Paul is.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It assumes that you already know who Paul is, because early on in the movie, there are two scenes in which you see this one guy who is yelling about his wife and is the owner of the Airbnb that the first murder happened in.
Yeah, and one of the first problems is because you don't know that that's a rental property, you have no idea there's a landlord.
When I first watched the movie, I didn't register that it was an Airbnb, because when they first entered the Airbnb, the boyfriend says something to the effect like, "Oh, I thought you grew up here." So I assumed
So I assumed it was like, oh, okay, he's a rich guy and they got their summer home or winter home.
But I watched an explained video where someone actually points out that it is an Airbnb, and you can tell because there's a point in which she's trying to turn on the thermostat and she's holding an Airbnb filing, like one of those like printouts.
Yeah.
That was given to her by the Airbnb owner.
Yeah, when I saw it, I thought it was just given to her by her boyfriend.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, if you actually look at that printout, it's very briefly on screen. You can actually see the picture of the guy who owns the Airbnb, but it's slightly blurred out because of the way the framing is.
Yeah.
So you don't really get a good look there. So I didn't put together that it was an Airbnb in the first place. And
I didn't either.
That was on me, not picking up on that. That was on me. But later, when the cops are at the first crime scene, there's this guy yelling, and he says something to the effect of, how am I gonna make a living here? Am I gonna turn it into a haunted house? Because it's an Airbnb. Like, what am I gonna do? People have been murdered here, or whatever. And he yells about his wife. Like, my wife's gonna kill me, or whatever. We later see this same guy being interrogated by the cops in this long montage when they're interrogating various people. Some people are talking about weird people they've seen around town. Others are potential suspects.
Yeah.
Because they're tall and big and stuff.
Yeah, they got one of those like lineup shots where it's a one chair and there's a different person in the chair.
And in that, he's yelling, I don't have time for this. I gotta get to my wife and some shit. So we have two scenes of this guy yelling about his wife, and he is the owner of the Airbnb at the very beginning of the movie. But here's the thing. In those two scenes, he has a goatee and a mustache.
Yeah.
And he's wearing blue in both of those scenes. So you can easily identify, same guy, right?
Right. He's
wearing blue. He's got the thing. At the very end of the movie, when they show us Paul again, and his name's Paul, we find out at the end of the movie, but...
First of all, we find out at the end of the movie his name's Paul.
Here's the weird thing. Okay, all right, how do I put this? So there's a scene early on in the movie in which the cops are at a diner talking about what they're going to do with the case.
Right.
And this is the scene in which the main character goes, look, Dad can't do this. I'm going to take charge in this. You all do this through me.
Yeah.
In this scene, there's this one cutaway shot of this evidence file.
Yeah.
That's on the table. And there's a picture of the Airbnb owner with the name Paul underneath it. So...
Yeah, it would have been nice to see
I
that.
didn't register it.
I didn't. I definitely didn't.
I didn't notice it the first time. I didn't notice it the second time. When I rewatched the movie a third time, I had to go back after going through the scene because I had watched the whole scene a third time with forgetting I was supposed to look for it, and then had to go back frame by frame and find it. And I'm like, okay.
Man.
So there's a quick shot of that, and that's the connection between the guy we saw yelling and the name Paul that we get early on in the movie.
Right.
Now, in the structure of the movie, if you're not thinking of this as a murder mystery, the main character has all this evidence around him but is not piecing it together because he's having a nervous breakdown. Makes sense. So you could see why if you were trying to solve the murder mystery like me, you'd be a little annoyed.
Well, yeah, because you have a character. It's really hard to fucking solve a mystery if your lens is an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like it makes it a little frustrating.
So when we get to the end of the movie and he's finally delivering some of the evidence that was picked up to Paul, because it was evidence that was taken from his Airbnb, so it's his stuff. We meet Paul, and he's wearing red.
Yeah, he's wearing a
flannel.
completely different outfit.
And he shaved the goatee and the mustache, and the movie doesn't draw attention to this. So I did not register it was the same character.
Yeah.
And reading online, a lot of people didn't register it was
I didn't realize
character.
it was the same guy either. I was just like, who's this guy?
So if you were like me and wondering, because a lot of people, there's a misconception about this scene, because a lot of people think that that the main character figured out Paul was the werewolf because Paul asked about the main character's daughter, because the werewolf attacked the daughter at one point.
Right.
That's not the case. It doesn't even make sense for that to be the case, because early on in that same conversation, they talk about how there was an article about the whole case that was just written.
Yeah.
So him asking about the daughter is not necessarily tip-off. What the tip-off is supposed to be in the script is he mentions that he doesn't have a wife.
Yeah.
After 2 scenes of talking about having a wife.
Yeah.
Now that's a great that's a great detail and a great way to write the scene if you're able to register it's the same character.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because like as far as it was like the end of like Scream 3 where you're like, haha!
Yeah.
That guy's Ghostface, and you're like, who is that?
Now that I've said that, and you can kind of understand my little frustration with this, because you can't register it's the same character, and because it requires you to put the face to a name that you see independently.
Yeah.
That's a little frustrating in terms of pieces of a mystery to solve.
Yeah.
But once you know who the killer is, and you kind of understand the way the movie's supposed to be, how the cop being so anxiety ridden and being so overrun by his alcoholic addiction that he's missing all these details, therefore the camera isn't drawing attention to them for you.
Yeah.
They're all background details, they're all there, but he's not putting them together. You will find that there's actually a lot of really cool details that point to this ending from the very beginning. One being the Airbnb, if you register it's an Airbnb, if you actually catch that it's an Airbnb at the beginning of the movie, is filled with taxidermied animals. And one of the things that kind of clues into the end of the movie, and this is the big spoiler, so stop right here if you don't want the big spoiler, is the killer isn't actually a werewolf. He's pretending to be a werewolf because he taxidermied a werewolf costume. Yeah.
He like fucking... He's got like this full fucking workable werewolf outfit that he puts on to kill people.
And Paul, on top of being like an Airbnb owner guy, is a taxidermist. And this is another detail where the other cop who kind of catches on that Paul's the killer catches on because in their crime scene bags independently they find this like spool and like this one taxidermy needle thing. And this is weird because if you don't know that's a taxidermy needle, you won't know how that's a piece of evidence.
Yeah. It's a seam ripper.
The scene in which the movie tells you what a taxidermy needle looks like is a very brief scene in a montage in which the main character is reading up on werewolves.
Werewolves, yeah.
And one of the books he picks up is a book on taxidermy, which is written by the character Paul, which was a detail that was only pointed out to me again.
I didn't see that either. Like,
and here's the thing: I've rewatched the movie 3 times now, and a lot of these details are so blink if you miss it. Like,
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, wasn't he also named after that famous the first case of lycanthropy?
He might have been, but I know his last name is supposed to be like carnivore. It's like it's like alluding to carnivore. So in that montage scene, there's a brief fucking shot of taxidermy needles.
Yeah.
Like in the book, like drawn in the book. So the details are all there, but if you're trying to solve it as an actual like viewer, You're going to be really frustrated when you get to the end, unless you happen to actually pick up on it being the same character early on in the movie.
Yeah, because like usually what will happen, like you know what they usually do in like a fucking mystery movie, which is, all right, someone finds something, like, oh, what's that?
Yep.
It's a bottle of Midol.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and then you forget, and they put it down, so you forget about, so you might forget about it.
Yeah.
So they can surprise you at the end that that's important. But because they did that, it's a bottle of Midol. Like now you'll be able to see it because we spent enough time on it. Yeah, this is sort of like 5 frames later, it's gone.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? Okay.
Every detail that points to the mystery is like background montage information. It's not like directly in front of the camera, with the only exception being the Airbnb we see at the beginning of the movie being filled with taxidermied animals, and the fact that all the weaponry had been removed.
Yeah. But and the thing there is, if you don't realize it's a rental property, that doesn't strike you as weird.
Yeah.
You know, you're just sort of like, oh,
they took all their knives.
They took all their knives, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a very weird. So like the details are all there, and whether or not that will frustrate you or make you appreciate the movie more, knowing they're there and like finding them, is going to be up to people personally. But when I actually initially watched the explained videos and saw all those details, I was annoyed because I felt like the movie could have pointed to them easier.
Yeah.
But here's one simple thing that probably could have alleviated a whole lot of frustration with the way this movie is structured, is if the Paul at the end of the movie was dressed and had the same mustache as the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. If he had looked similar to the way he did otherwise.
Like if you could register it's the same guy.
Yeah. Or if we like saw him like shaving or something.
Or even just like a note, like, oh, did you shave or something?
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
yeah.
Because this movie's weirdly understated in certain points, there's a lot of things left unsaid in certain conversations, and I felt like the moment in which the character pieces together, oh shit, like he always said he didn't have a wife or whatever. The character never has that moment where he flashes back.
Yeah, they never quite, they never quite do that. He does, there are scenes where that happens, but that it doesn't lead to the identity of the killer directly.
Yeah. So it's one of those weird things where, like, as a murder mystery, it kind of frustrates me. I like that the details are there. Don't get me wrong. Like that, they obviously thought out.
Oh yeah.
All the elements.
It was intentionally done.
But that part of the movie, like not the greatest fan of how it's handled. I feel like there's some small things that could have made that less frustrating. Like I said, letting him look the way he did at the beginning of the movie, considering in 2 scenes that happen like a couple days apart, he's dressed and has the same look. We could have done that at the end of the movie too. And
there would have been no problem.
You know, that's just my opinion or anything.
Well, yeah, like also, it's also one of those things that makes you go like, what? It didn't someone who was be trying to solve the case have some of this information that we as the audience missed?
Oh yeah. Well, like that's ostensibly what the partner, what's her name? There's a partner in this movie who is kind of the voice of reason amidst his chaos. Who, spoilers, at the end of the movie becomes the actual sheriff because the main character recognizes that
he's not fit for this.
He's not fit for the job, and I really like that, actually.
Yeah.
I really like, because like a lot of times movies like this would have a character who has a condition like that be fixed and cured by the end of it.
Yeah.
But the thing that was very obvious to me over the course of this movie was that no, I'm not saying that you can't find and make a living somewhere, but what I am saying is that you should not be doing this job.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't be sheriff.
You know, you are not equipped to be a sheriff. Your anxiety is way too strong. Your alcoholism and your draw to alcoholism is way too strong. And you're way too prone to hitting people.
Yeah.
Hell, the way... Okay, this is actually a detail I really liked. Early on in the movie, he 2 things happen. There's a point really early on in the movie where he like has a Freudian slip when he's talking about what he's going to do when he catches the werewolf, and he like says, I'm going to capture the werewolf. It's a very small moment. And then later on in the movie, he is talking to the boyfriend of the first victim, and the boyfriend of the first victim says, when you catch him, don't lock him up, just shoot him in the face and let him die in the snow.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. And then at the end of the movie, that's exactly what he does.
That's exactly what happens. Yeah. And it's.
But here's the thing: as satisfying and as good as it is, I was really glad when he did that he also stepped down as sheriff.
Yeah.
Because.
Yeah.
If your first thought as sheriff is I'm going to kill this guy, you're probably not equipped for the job.
Yeah, this probably isn't for you.
Even a serial killer dressing up as a werewolf. There was one detail I found out that apparently there was like a detail that was cut out of the movie of the werewolf costume having like he sewed razors into like the gloves and stuff. And I honestly, that's the thing that I really wish the movie had, is that scene after the werewolf is killed where they just explain the details.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that still kind of confuses me post the movie is there was a red herring character, and the red herring character kills himself. And when the guy killed himself, and I think he like injected himself with silver or something. It was something.
Yeah. It's something weird.
So they're like, okay, he's a big tall guy. We found a body in his backyard. And we also early on in the movie watched as he burned a body in the backyard. He's got a wolf dog and a wolf tattoo.
Yeah.
So clearly this is our guy, and we found his body, and he killed himself. All right, cool. If he wasn't the main killer, what was with the body in his backyard that he was burning?
Yeah. Basically, it's really confusing because you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? All right, so what it actually is, it's an unrelated murder.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a murderer. It's just not related to the other werewolf guy.
I'm not often the person who says this, because oftentimes I feel like these scenes are really unnecessary. But I kind of wish this had that scene in Psycho in which like the cops sit down and explain what.
Yeah, like this one kind of did need it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there, like, first of all, it didn't help that like when they revealed who the werewolf was, I was like, who is that? Like, am I supposed to know who that is? Because I don't.
Yeah. Like you could have done Matt. Like I'm like sitting there going like, okay, so was that guy just a junkie that like his girlfriend died from like heroin and he didn't want to catch the body? Like then he killed himself because.
Yeah. So what the fuck's going on?
But also one of the details they give you really early on in the movie is that there are wolf bites.
Yeah.
On the corpses, but without saliva, which is our tip-off that it's a taxidermied costume.
Yeah, it's a taxidermy
without
costume.
actually thing. But because at the end of the movie, when he's wearing his half costume, he doesn't have the wolf mask on. I really wanted to know how the wolf bite worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand at the end of the movie you need the confrontation with the good guy and the bad guy, and so you have him not wearing the mask so you can have the face confrontation, but I kind of wish he was wearing the full-on costume at the end.
We needed like that moment where someone comes up and it's just like, oh, it turns out there's a bear trap in the head, or something. Yeah,
something. Like sometimes it could be really hand-holdy, but for this movie, since you kept most of the details so backgrounded, I kind of wanted that explanation aha moment, even if it was the other detective explaining it.
Yeah.
Not detective, sheriff, deputy, whatever she is.
Oh, but the other major law enforcement character.
But with all that being said, I still stand by really loving all the mental breakdown stuff in this movie.
Because what you have at the center of this movie, and I know it's been a long journey getting here.
Yeah.
What you have at the center of this movie is a meditation on the fact that you can't stop young girls from getting raped.
Yeah, you do have that too, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
you can't do anything about it.
One of the core struggles in the movie of why the main character is also having such a nervous breakdown is that a bunch of young women are being attacked and eaten by this werewolf thing, which it turns out is not a werewolf. And he is a father of a teenage daughter. So he is deathly afraid that his daughter is going to be the victim of...
and she almost is.
She is targeted at one point. In a great fucking attack sequence. That scene where he like attacks the car and scratches the window. Ooh, that's...
Yeah, well, like, dude, like, that scene and the previous shot with the werewolf is what convinces you that the guy is like a legit werewolf.
Yeah.
Because like this werewolf, this is not like Crete Peach Fuzz looking wolf costume. Like this thing looks Real legit.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then there's that great scene where, like, oh man, this is a really cool scene, because what I like about the scene is that what's right in the societal context and what's right in the personal context are completely opposite things.
Oh yeah, they're totally at odds.
Because he arrives at the scene and saves his daughter from the werewolf, not realizing it's his daughter at first, and then his daughter reveals herself, and then she needs to go to the hospital, and she's freaking out, but she could probably she doesn't need to see the hospital immediately, but she's mad at him because and he's yelling at her because he's having a nervous breakdown and stuff. So it's this really emotional scene. But she's like you're never around, you're never doing anything. I've only seen the back of your head most of my life, and so take me to the fucking hospital and be a dad for once and all that stuff. But while that's the right thing to do as a father in that context, as a sheriff, it's a terrible thing to do because the werewolf literally just got away and is
and he actually, and because of this, he does actually kill somebody.
And I didn't catch this at first, but rewatching the movie and also watching some of the explanations of the movie, you can actually hear on the radio the other cop, with all this argument is going, saying that he's encountered the werewolf and he needs backup.
Yeah.
So as a sheriff, he should be giving that guy backup, because in the very next scene, that guy's dead.
Yep.
And so it's a scene in which what society needs of him as cop and what his daughter needs of him as father are in such conflict that he can't be in this job anymore.
Yeah. It's you can't expect someone to function like this.
Exactly.
You know.
And I thought, I liked that the movie didn't really sugarcoat that.
No.
For all its like horror comediness, that thing is played so serious.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, granted, the cop's body is a little goofy.
I mean,
but
yeah,
the scenario was. They did such a good job of that scene where he fucking fires the shotgun at the werewolf as the werewolf is jumping on the cars.
Oh yeah,
that was great.
Oh man, and I love that scene because you have the red siren light on his face the whole time.
Yeah, it's really well done.
It's so good.
Yeah, so this is a it's a really good movie, but your mileage may vary depending on how shit goes, and it does have this really heavy message at the end of it.
It does.
You know, just that last moment, you're just like, oh man.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I don't want to spoil that last moment too much, but the end of the movie does have a moment that kind of exemplifies some of my frustration with some of the movie's things. So early on in the movie, there's a conversation between the dad and the daughter, and they talk about how one of the gifts he got her at one of the special occasions, I can't remember if it was birthday or Christmas or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But at one of them, he got her pepper spray.
Yeah.
To protect him from, would-be criminals and men.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, he has this moment because she's moving into her college, right? And at the end of the movie, he talks about how he moved the shelf in, and that he left something in the dresser.
Yeah.
Moved the dresser in, and he left something in the dresser for her. And he leaves the room, and then she goes to the dresser, and and it's for protection. Left something in the dresser for protection. She goes to the dresser, opens it, finds condoms. And you're like, oh, okay, it's condoms. But then she looks down past the condoms into the dresser. We don't see what's there. And then she looks out the window, looks out the door like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Because Dad's just left through that.
And then we cut to Dad walking out of the building, adjusting his belt. I had no idea what that was supposed to mean.
Me neither.
Until I saw an explanation that early on in the movie, when spoilers, his dad dies, he gets his dad's revolver.
Yeah.
And he puts it onto his belt.
Yeah.
The idea is that he left his dad's revolver with the daughter.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Unfortunately, the more I thought about that scene, the more confused I got. For this reason, and this is just me overthinking things, but stand with me. So, when the scene opens, it's her talking with the new sheriff, which is his former partner.
Right.
And they're having a conversation, and we're supposed to imply that Dad died, but then Dad comes in the room and he's not actually
right.
And what she's actually mad about is that Mom isn't there for her first day of college. So Dad walks into the room, mentions the shelf, and then walks out. So the implication is that before this scene happened, Dad had put the shelf in there. So how long did he wait to adjust his belt?
Yeah.
Until he, like...
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's like it's a minor detail. It's nothing to like shit on the movie for, but like stuff like that, I feel like you shouldn't have relied on the adjusting of the belt. You could have done something more clear.
Like, you could have just shown it. You know.
But anyway, The Wolf of Snow Hollow. It came out last year. It is currently available on various platforms to rent. I've already said these things. What am I doing?
I don't know.
I like the movie. I do recommend checking it out. It has a very weird tone, so just know that going in. And don't try to see it too much as a mystery because you might frustrate yourself. Though you might not now that you've heard all the details. You might actually appreciate it more going in now.
Yeah, but just because you'll have an idea of like what to look for and shit.
But like definitely when you watch this movie, everything around the daughter, the father, and the main character is just...
Yeah, it's really great.
That's the heart of the movie, and that's the soul of the movie, and that shit is really well done. And with that said, where can I find you?
You can find me on Twitter at JackSatanWave. You can find me on Twitch, Count_Jackula, where I stream twice a week on Thursdays and Sundays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And you can follow me on Instagram at Satanic Jackula. And I talk about all sorts of really important things like, poop dinosaurs.
Poop dinosaurs. Oh man.
Yeah.
Man, they've really gotten wild on that stream.
Yeah, well, things go crazy on that Instagram, let me tell you. All right, where can I find you?
Y'all know me, I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, on Instagram. Just look up the Horror Guru and Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. And I apologize for burping in the middle of that sentence.
How dare you?
I've been talking a lot, and I think the energy drink I had earlier is now coming back despite me.
It's starting to haunt you.
It's starting to haunt me. Be sure to smash that like button and smash that notification bell and smash your girlfriend / boyfriend / non-binary friend. Smash them too.
Yeah.
If there actually is a name for that,
smash.
If there actually is a name for a non-binary boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever they're called, tell me below because I have no idea what it's called.
I just realized I had no idea about that either.
But smash them too, in the sexual sense, not in the physical sense. Well, I guess that's physical too. You know what I mean. I am completely off track right now. Somehow, okay, if you guys made it this far into the vlog, work the word smash somewhere into your comments below. Work the word smash into your comments. Just so I know you've made it this far.
Okay, we got it. Like now the vlog's like over 40 minutes, therefore I had to be talking about domestic violence.
This is what happens when we record 2 long vlogs in a row. We get loopy as all shit. Especially when we do it at bumfuck night. Or like
in the middle of fucking
dark
night.
30.
Yeah, I don't even know what time it is right now.
Bumfuck night. What the fuck? Okay, alright. If you would like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out our Patreon pages. And remember, if you decide to go the Patreon route, even $1 a month can go a long way. And I think that's everything. With that all said, peace out, my fellow gorehounds. Enjoy the movie, and
peace out, and we'll check y'all later.